This is Mental Forge, where weakness burns and warriors are built. You wake up tomorrow, but something is different. The light from the window feels sharper, the air more charged, as if the world knows you have decided. Not a vague wish, not a polite intention, but a decision made with the steel of finality. You have chosen to live as if you are on a mission. No more drifting through the hours, hoping that success might one day tap you on the shoulder. No more waiting for permission or a perfect sign. From this moment forward, every step you take carries the weight of purpose, the fire of conviction, and the clarity of someone who has already claimed victory in the mind before a single battle has been fought. You see, most people want results but live like tourists in their own lives. They visit the idea of discipline the way someone might stroll through a museum interested, impressed, but unwilling to get their hands dirty. They forget that life does not reward the curious, it rewards the committed. When you act as if you are on a mission, hesitation dies. Doubt has no seat at the table. Your identity reshapes itself into that of a person who expects results because their actions demand them. This is not play acting. It is the conscious choice to embody the person you must become long before the evidence appears. History has shown us the power of such embodiment. Think of Theodore Roosevelt, a man whose body was once frail, lungs weak, and spirit tested by the early death of his father. He could have resigned himself to a life of cautious avoidance. Instead, he adopted the mindset of a warrior statesman long before the world saw him as one. He built his strength deliberately, day after day, boxing, riding, and hiking, until the boy who could barely breathe became the man who would charge up San Juan Hill. Roosevelt did not wait for life to prove he was strong. He lived as if he already was, and reality bent to match his conviction. There's a principle buried deep in both ancient philosophy and modern psychology. Your mind does not distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically real. This is why elite athletes rehearse their performances in detail before stepping into the arena. It is why leaders visualize the victory long before the field is won. Acting as if you are on a mission wires the brain to prioritize, to filter distractions, to seek opportunities that match the image you are holding. This is not mystical thinking, it is the science of priming and the biology of focus. But to truly live this way, you must dismantle the habits of a wandering life. You must rise each morning with a ritual that sets the mission in motion. That means carving out a sacred first hour not to check messages, not to scroll, but to calibrate your mind and body like a warrior sharpening his sword before dawn. Read something that fuels your vision, not your fear. Move your body with intent, because physical readiness reinforces mental readiness. Speak aloud the commitments you will not break today. These are not mere routines. They are declarations to yourself and to the world. Leonardo da Vinci once carried a notebook everywhere, sketching, calculating, recording ideas before they slipped away. He did not wait for inspiration to visit him. He hunted it down with the discipline of a man who believed every detail mattered. Living on a mission means moving through your day like that, not in frantic haste, but in deliberate pursuit. Each conversation, each task, each decision is measured against the standard of your purpose. If it serves the mission, it stays. If it doesn't, it goes. If you're listening to this and feeling the pull to step into that version of yourself, don't just nod along. Commit. If you haven't yet subscribed, do it now. Because what we're building here is not just content, it's a forge where your mind will be shaped for strength, discipline, and unshakable results. When Andrew Carnegie was still a poor immigrant, he studied the habits of men who built empires. He read relentlessly, networked strategically, and invested in knowledge as though it were gold. Long before he became one of the wealthiest men in history, he was already acting as if he was a captain of industry. He carried himself differently, made decisions with long horizons in mind, and chose his mentors with surgical precision. By the time opportunity knocked, he was not scrambling to become ready. He was already operating at the level required. Living as if you are on a mission is not about reckless bravado. It is about removing the gap between who you say you are and how you live each day. This means tightening your environment until it reflects your intention. It means curating what you consume mentally, physically, and emotionally. so it feeds the identity you are forging. This is why Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet hours before the empire stirred, would write to himself about the man he must be. Disciplined, humble, steadfast, he knew the emperor's crown meant nothing without the emperor's mind. There will be days when the mission feels heavy, when results seem distant, when fatigue whispers that you deserve a break. This is when the mission matters most. Napoleon Bonaparte once said that in war, the moral is to the physical, as 3 is to 1. He understood that the will to press forward often outweighs sheer resources. You must cultivate the habit of pressing on not blindly, but strategically, because missions are not completed in moments of comfort. They are won in the crucible of persistence. And persistence is not built by accident. It's built by stacking small wins daily, a truth echoed in the compounding principle found in both finance and personal growth. When you choose to execute one intentional action every day, whether that's making a sales call, writing a page, practicing a skill, you're not just adding to your progress, you're multiplying it over time. James Clear's work on habits makes it plain. Small, consistent actions, aligned with a clear identity, create exponential results. The mission mindset makes those actions non-negotiable. Living this way demands a shift from chasing motivation to building systems. Motivation will vanish on a rainy Tuesday when you're tired. Systems will not. Systems turn discipline from a struggle into a default. This is why Benjamin Franklin carried a personal scorecard, rating himself on 13 virtues he sought to master. Every evening he would review his actions against his ideals. No one demanded this of him. He did it because his mission to be a man of influence, wisdom, and contribution required it. And here's the reality. Your life will rise to the level of the standards you enforce, not the dreams you entertain. Enforcing those standards means making hard choices, saying no to distractions, delaying gratification, resisting the comfortable drift of the ordinary. It means reviewing your mission weekly with the same scrutiny a commander applies to battle plans. Ask, what progress did I make? Where did I falter? How can I adjust? This isn't obsession. It's stewardship over the one life you have. When you live as if you're on a mission, the world responds differently. People sense the gravity in your presence. Opportunities, which were always there but hidden, become visible because your attention is tuned to them. Just as a trained soldier can spot a threat in the periphery while others see nothing, you begin to see openings others overlook. That awareness is not luck, it's the reward for living aligned, focused, and decisive. Even in wealth creation, this mindset changes the game. Too many chase money as a goal instead of a mission. The difference is profound. Money as a goal makes you reactive, chasing trends and quick wins. Money as part of a mission anchors you to principles. Value creation, strategic investment, disciplined spending, and patient compounding. J. Morgan built financial dominance not by gambling on fads, but by moving with calculated intent, guided by a mission to shape markets and industries. The deeper you live into this mindset, the more you realize that mission is not just about achievement, it's about becoming. The person who starts is not the person who finishes. Along the way, you develop the resilience to weather storms, the courage to take calculated risks, and the clarity to stay unmoved by noise. You stop asking, "Will this work?" and start asking, "Am I becoming the person who can make this work?" That is the question that shapes destiny, and destiny bends to those who answer that question with action. Not once, not sporadically, but relentlessly. Each day, you reaffirm your mission, not through speeches, but through the quiet, sometimes unseen decisions that others will never applaud. You choose to make the difficult phone call, to train when no one is watching, to review your numbers, your craft, your strategy, when fatigue tempts you to shut it down. These moments, strung together, form the invisible chain of cause and effect that will one day make others call you lucky. Consider the case of Winston Churchill during the darkest hours of the Second World War. London was burning, the enemy relentless, allies wavering. Churchill understood something that many leaders fail to grasp. Mission is not merely about tactics. It's about transmitting unbreakable conviction to everyone who looks to you. His speeches were not just words, they were the audible pulse of a man who had decided the outcome in his heart before it ever played out in history. This is the essence of acting as if you are on a mission. You lead yourself and others as though victory is non-negotiable, and in doing so, you make it more likely. But you must also master the inner terrain. Acting as if you are on a mission is not a call to wear a mask or pretend you feel confident when you don't. It is about building genuine self-trust, brick by brick. This is done through integrity, keeping promises to yourself. Each time you do what you said you would do, especially when it's inconvenient, you pour another layer of steel into your character. Over weeks and months, this compounds into an unshakable belief in your own capacity to execute. And once you have that, hesitation dies. Henry Ford, before the Model T reshaped the modern world, faced ridicule from established manufacturers who believed his vision of an affordable, reliable car for ordinary people was impossible. Ford didn't wait for approval. He moved forward, as though the success of his vision was inevitable. Aligning his actions with that certainty, his engineers worked through failures others would have taken as final verdicts. When he finally broke through, the world didn't just get a car. It got proof that a mission carried with relentless conviction can reorder entire industries. Your mission will not be handed to you neatly packaged. You will have to wrestle with it, define it, refine it, and once defined, you must guard it like a soldier guards a high-value target. Distractions will approach in friendly disguise, new opportunities, shiny tools, urgent but unimportant tasks. To the undisciplined, these look harmless. To the mission-driven, they are landmines. This is why you must keep a mission journal, a daily and weekly record of what matters most, what progress was made, and what must change. In reviewing it, you sharpen the edge of your focus. If you've been listening this far, and you're feeling that pull toward disciplined action, pause for a moment and subscribe now. Not because I want another number on a screen, but because what I'm sharing here is a continuous forge, each message designed to keep you aligned, sharpened, and advancing. One of the most dangerous myths is that acting as if you are on a mission requires grand gestures every day. In reality, missions are won in the accumulation of decisive, deliberate moves. Genghis Khan did not conquer through a single sweeping charge. He advanced through relentless strategy, each campaign building on the last, each victory expanding his reach. Even his retreats were calculated, designed to lure enemies into positions of weakness. That's the level of thought you must bring to your own life. Your decisions today should set the stage for victories months and years ahead. To operate like this, you must run regular after-action reviews on yourself. Military units do this to dissect what worked, what failed, and what will be done differently next time. In your context, that might mean reviewing a sales pitch, a negotiation, a workout, a writing session. You analyze not to judge yourself harshly, but to extract lessons with surgical precision. This is how you turn each day into an investment in mastery. And yet, there's a deeper level still: faith. Not blind faith, but the cultivated, reasoned belief that your mission is worthy and that you are capable of fulfilling it. This is the kind of belief Napoleon Hill wrote about, the kind that must exist before results appear. It is belief backed by work, by preparation, by the quiet confidence of a craftsman who knows his tools and his trade. When you step into a room with that kind of faith, you don't have to announce it. It is felt. Even in moments of setback, this mindset keeps you moving. Thomas Edison famously said he had not failed, but found thousands of ways that didn't work. Yet look deeper. Edison lived as though the solution existed and that it was only a matter of iteration until it revealed itself. That assumption, treated as truth, guided his experiments and kept him from the fatigue that stops lesser men. You must adopt the same frame. Obstacles are not verdicts, they are waypoints. I will tell you plainly, if you wait for certainty before you act, your mission will die in your hands. Certainty is not a prerequisite, it is a product. It is earned through action. Acting as if you are on a mission means you move forward with clarity of purpose, even when the path ahead is fogged. You do not stop because the next mile is unclear. You advance until it becomes clear. And in doing so, you discover that the fog lifts only for those who walk into it. The discipline to keep moving in uncertainty is one of the rarest assets you can develop, and it is forged only through repeated exposure to that discomfort. Think of Julius Caesar standing on the banks of the Rubicon, staring at the water that marked the point of no return. Crossing it meant war with Rome itself. To hesitate too long was to lose momentum and invite defeat. He made the choice, stepped forward, and in that act committed himself entirely. Your mission will have its own Rubicon moments, points where retreat is safe, but progress demands total commitment. You will know them when they come, and when they do, step forward. But stepping forward is not enough. You must then sustain the march. That requires the kind of structure most people avoid because it feels restrictive. In truth, structure is freedom. A soldier does not resent the discipline of the march because he understands that it keeps the unit alive. In your life, a disciplined schedule, clear priorities, and consistent rituals protect you from the chaos that will otherwise devour your mission. Each morning, review your objectives for the day and ask yourself, if I complete nothing else but these, will my mission advance? Then, act on them first, before the noise of the day can scatter your attention. This level of discipline also demands that you feed your mind with precision. Your mission cannot grow in soil poisoned by constant distraction, fear-driven news, or conversations with those who belittle your ambitions. Select what you read, what you listen to, and who you speak with the way a king selects his advisors. Rockefeller was known for surrounding himself only with those who could either execute his vision or challenge him with intelligence and loyalty. He understood that proximity shapes perspective, and perspective shapes results. Your inner environment matters just as much. Train your thoughts to align with your mission, because the mind, left untended, will default to comfort and fear. This is where daily affirmations, visualizations, and intentional self-talk come into play, not as empty repetition, but as deliberate mental conditioning. See yourself delivering that presentation with authority, closing that deal, finishing that book, leading that team. The brain begins to accept the vision as fact and directs your actions to make it so. This is the same mechanism that top athletes use when they visualize the perfect throw, the flawless routine, the winning sprint. You also need a system for recovery. A mission-driven life is not an endless sprint. It is a sustained campaign. Just as generals plan supply lines and rest periods, you must plan recovery into your schedule. Without it, burnout will erode your clarity and weaken your resolve. Rest is not the absence of the mission. It is part of the mission, because it keeps you sharp enough to win. This means quality sleep, strategic downtime, and intentional disconnection from the noise so your mind can reset. And in the quiet moments of rest, reflect on why the mission matters. Without meaning, discipline becomes drudgery. But when you remember the purpose, whether it's providing for your family, building something that outlives you, or proving to yourself that you can, you tap into a deeper well of energy. Alexander the Great carried with him not just the ambition to conquer, but the vision of uniting vast lands under one culture. His campaigns were fueled not just by strategy, but by a mission that felt larger than life itself. Every mission will be tested. There will be seasons where progress stalls, where every step forward feels like dragging your feet through wet sand. This is where many abandon their purpose and retreat into the safety of the ordinary. But if you keep showing up, executing the plan, adjusting where needed, staying committed, you will reach a tipping point where momentum takes over. In finance, this is the compounding effect. In personal growth, it is the moment your habits, skills, and networks align to produce exponential results. That moment does not come to the one who dabbles. It comes to the one who lives as if the mission is already theirs to complete, who moves with the confidence of inevitability, and who refuses to accept anything less than full alignment between their daily actions and their ultimate aim. You cannot fake this for long. People will sense whether your mission is real or merely a pose. Authentic mission living radiates through your decisions, your energy, even your posture. So guard that authenticity fiercely. Review your mission often, sharpen it, and recommit to it in the small hours when no one is watching. Let your mission dictate how you spend your time, how you invest your resources, how you speak, and how you carry yourself. When you do, you begin to live in a way where results are not merely possible, they are inevitable. And when results become inevitable, something subtle but powerful shifts in how the world responds to you. Doors that once seemed locked begin to crack open. Conversations take on a different tone. People feel a steadiness in you, a clarity that makes them want to align with you, follow you, or invest in you. This is not coincidence. It is the ripple effect of walking with a mission mindset, day after day, until the conviction is carved into your very presence. It's important to understand that this transformation is not instantaneous. It's forged in layers, the way a master swordsmith hammers steel, heats it, cools it, and hammers again. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you choose the difficult but correct action over the easy but empty one, another layer of strength is added. Eventually, the person you were when you began no longer exists, only the mission-shaped version of you remains. Consider the life of Nikola Tesla. His mission to harness and deliver energy in ways the world had never imagined was not something he worked on part-time. It consumed his attention, his imagination, his waking hours. He lived in such alignment with it that even his eccentricities served the purpose. He arranged his life, his environment, and his routines around deep work and relentless experimentation. Though not all his ventures brought him wealth, the mission itself drove advancements that still shape the modern world. That's the kind of alignment that outlives setbacks. And you will face setbacks. A mission mindset does not eliminate failure, it reframes it. Failure becomes data, not identity. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" This pivot in perspective is crucial. The man or woman on a mission understands that the obstacle is often the path, that resistance is the proving ground for capability. The war of art makes it clear. Resistance rises in proportion to the importance of the work. Your job is not to wish it away, but to meet it head-on until it yields. You will also need to develop the skill of strategic patience. Not all victories can be seized immediately. Some require seasons of preparation, positioning, and planting seeds without visible reward. This is where many abandon the mission when the results are not yet in sight. But history honors those who wait with purpose. Isaac Newton spent years in quiet study before revealing the principles that would redefine science. He did not mistake stillness for inaction. He understood that incubation is part of execution. If you've been with me this far, you're already proving that you value depth over distraction. That's rare. If you haven't yet subscribed, take this moment to do it, not just as a click, but as a signal to yourself that you're aligning with a community built on discipline, resilience, and results. Now, to act as if you're on a mission, you must design your weeks as deliberately as your days. A weekly mission review is your checkpoint, your chance to measure the distance traveled and adjust the route. Each week, define 3 critical actions that, if completed, will make the next week stronger. Reflect on what drained your energy and what amplified it. Remove the drains, multiply the amplifiers. Over time, this creates a compounding upward spiral. Equally important is your circle. Missions are rarely achieved in isolation. You need allies, people who hold you accountable, who challenge you without undermining you, who share your hunger for excellence. Cornelius Vanderbilt built his empire not just on shrewd moves, but on alliances with people who could execute his vision at scale. He knew that even the strongest individual becomes stronger still when reinforced by capable partners. Guard against the temptation to prove yourself to the wrong audience. Not everyone will understand your mission, and that's fine, they're not meant to. Measure yourself against your own standards, not the noise of public opinion. This internal orientation gives you a steadiness that external validation can't provide. Over time, it also builds the kind of quiet confidence that attracts genuine respect rather than shallow applause. And finally, remember that a mission without joy will burn you out. Yes, there is discipline, sacrifice, and relentless effort. But there must also be moments where you savor the process, where you notice the small victories, the skills sharpened, the boundaries expanded. Joy is not a distraction from the mission. It is the fuel that keeps the fire burning long after others have quit. Joy also sharpens your vision. When you can find satisfaction in the grind, not just in the highlight moments, you begin to see the mission as a privilege rather than a burden. This changes how you show up each day. A mind that sees its work as meaningful will work with more creativity, persistence, and care. And this attitude, in turn, inspires those around you. People will want to be near someone who is not only driven, but also deeply alive in the pursuit of their purpose. Abraham Lincoln carried his mission with a quiet, steady dignity, even when the nation was split in two and the odds seemed impossible. He found moments of humor, of human connection, even in the midst of civil war. This wasn't frivolity, it was resilience in action. Joy, for Lincoln, was a tool for endurance. It allowed him to keep perspective, to remain human in a role that could have turned him into stone. Your mission will require the same balance: the strength to endure hardship, and the wisdom to replenish your spirit along the way. A crucial element in sustaining this is gratitude, not as a sentimental exercise, but as a strategic one. Gratitude rewires your attention toward assets rather than deficits, resources rather than shortages. A leader, entrepreneur, or creator who can see and leverage their assets moves faster than one trapped in a loop of what's missing. Each evening, take 5 minutes to write down 3 things, however small, that moved your mission forward that day. Over time, this sharpens your awareness of progress and opportunity. This also keeps your mind anchored in the present, where real work happens. Too much fixation on the future breeds anxiety. Too much dwelling on the past breeds regret. Acting as if you're on a mission means holding the vision of the future while engaging fully with the moment you're in. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius would remind himself daily that life happens only now, that the mission is advanced, not in some vague tomorrow, but in this decision, this conversation, this task. And here's the paradox: the more you commit to your mission in the present, the faster your future arrives. This is the compounding effect at its most personal. Consistent, high-quality effort, applied over time, doesn't just add up, it multiplies. The reason is simple. Small actions, repeated, build skill. This is not to say you become rigid. Flexibility within the mission is a strength. Conditions change, markets shift, new information arrives. A mission-driven person adjusts tactics without abandoning the objective. Think of it like a ship at sea. The captain may change course to avoid storms or catch better winds, but the destination remains fixed. Those without a mission drift endlessly, at the mercy of every current. And this is where resilience, discipline, joy, gratitude, focus, and adaptability all converge into something rare: momentum. Once you build it, your mission begins to carry you forward. Tasks feel lighter, decisions faster, results more consistent. This is the point where others will finally notice and ask, "What's your secret?" They will not see the years of quiet, disciplined, mission-driven living that made it possible. And that's fine. Because the real reward is not just the outcome, it's the person you've become in the process. And the person you've become is not easily shaken. You've been tested in the grind, sharpened by resistance, refined by deliberate choices that few were willing to make. This is the armor a mission-driven life forges, not a shell that hides you from the world, but a structure that allows you to walk into it with courage and purpose. The storms still come, but they don't knock you off course. Benjamin Franklin understood this well. His mission was not just to accumulate wealth or secure political influence. It was to live a life of improvement, both for himself and for the society around him. His famous 13 virtues weren't an abstract philosophy. They were a system, a daily accountability framework that kept him aligned with his mission. Even when he fell short on a virtue, the act of tracking it kept his focus on becoming the kind of man who could accomplish what he set out to do. That is the essence of living as if you're on a mission, measuring yourself not against the comfort of today, but against the standard of the person required to achieve tomorrow's vision. But there's another truth you must hold. The mission is bigger than you. Even if it starts as a personal goal, a business, a creative work, a transformation, it gains enduring strength when it serves others. Service multiplies impact, and impact sustains motivation. The human mind is wired to endure more when the effort is for someone else's benefit. Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller all had personal ambitions, but their influence extended far beyond their own fortunes because they built systems, institutions, and innovations that changed lives. To serve well, you must also lead well, and leadership begins with self-leadership. The mission mindset does not tolerate the gap between what you demand of others and what you demand of yourself. You can't expect discipline from your team if your own habits are sloppy. You can't expect commitment from your clients if your own work ethic wavers. People follow example before they follow instruction. And here's where your standards must remain uncompromising. Mediocrity has a way of creeping in quietly. It shows up as good enough work, half-finished projects, or excuses dressed as reasons. If you don't catch it early, it will erode the mission from within. This is why regular reflection and review are non-negotiable. Hold yourself to the same intensity you had when you first declared the mission. Even when the excitement fades and the work becomes routine, sometimes the greatest danger is not failure but comfort. Comfort is subtle. It whispers that you've done enough, that you deserve to coast, that maybe it's time to take your foot off the gas. But a mission doesn't pause. The moment you stop advancing, entropy begins its slow work of undoing progress. This doesn't mean you never rest. It means rest is strategic, not indulgent. You stop to sharpen the blade, not to abandon the hunt. Think of Leonidas of Sparta at Thermopylae. He knew the odds, knew the likely outcome. Yet he and his small force held the pass not because they expected survival, but because the mission to delay the enemy and protect the Greek states demanded it. That kind of clarity strips away hesitation. You see the action that must be taken, and you take it, regardless of how it feels in the moment. When you live like this, the mission becomes your compass. Every decision, big or small, gets measured against it. If it advances the mission, you move. If it doesn't, you walk away. Over time, this clarity simplifies life in ways you can't imagine at the start. Distractions lose their grip. Opportunities either align or they don't. And you no longer waste energy forcing things that don't fit. And in that space of clarity, your results multiply, not because you're working harder than everyone else, but because your work is pure, uncluttered by wasted effort, aligned in direction, reinforced by habits that run without constant force of will. This is the true power of acting as if you're on a mission. The alignment of thought, decision, and action into a single, unstoppable trajectory. That trajectory becomes a force of nature when you realize the mission is not a phase, it's an identity. You no longer have to remind yourself to think like someone on a mission. It is the default setting of your mind. This is where the discipline no longer feels like discipline, it feels like breathing. You wake up already scanning for the next step forward, already calibrating the day toward the goal. The friction that once made progress slow has been replaced with the smooth momentum of ingrained habit. Thomas Edison reached this stage long before the world knew his name. His laboratory wasn't just a workplace, it was a living extension of his mission. Experiments ran day and night, because the work wasn't something he clocked in and out of, it was woven into his existence. The boundaries between life and mission blurred in a way that gave him an advantage over anyone treating their craft as a side pursuit. When your mission becomes who you are, you gain the endurance to outlast those who treat it as a temporary effort. But identity alone isn't enough, you must continually expand your capacity. A mission worth pursuing will always grow faster than your current skills. That's not a problem. It's the point. The mission is designed to stretch you, to demand that you learn, adapt, and innovate. This means you must be as deliberate about personal growth as you are about external action. Read with focus, train with intensity, practice with intent. Build your body, mind, and network in parallel so that when new challenges arise, you meet them already prepared. And preparation isn't only about resources and skills, it's about emotional readiness. The mission will test your patience, humility, and ability to stay grounded under pressure. J.P. Morgan was known for maintaining an unshakable composure during market panics. While others acted from fear, he stayed aligned with his strategy, making bold moves precisely when others hesitated. That steadiness wasn't luck. It was the cultivated mindset of a man who had rehearsed his response to crisis long before it arrived. You can do the same. Spend time visualizing not just your victories, but also your setbacks. Picture how you will respond to betrayal, to loss, to unexpected obstacles. See yourself making calm, decisive choices in the midst of chaos. This mental rehearsal turns potential breaking points into points of control. The more prepared you are to meet adversity with composure, the more you can turn it into an advantage. In the process, you'll develop a strange kind of confidence. Not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet, grounded assurance that you can handle whatever comes. That confidence is magnetic. It draws allies, opens doors, and amplifies your influence. People trust those who trust themselves, and nothing communicates self-trust more than a consistent, mission-driven track record. But never mistake confidence for complacency. The sharper your skills become, the greater your responsibility to keep refining them. Andrew Carnegie, even after amassing extraordinary wealth, continued to study business, politics, and philanthropy. He understood that the mission doesn't end at the first major victory, it evolves. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment the mission begins to decay. So keep building. Keep refining. Keep pushing into the edges of what you're capable of. Your mission will expand to match your growth, and in that expansion, you'll find a sense of fulfillment that no short-term win can match. This is the long game, the game only the truly committed are willing to play. And when you're in it, there is no finish line, only the next summit waiting to be reached. Each summit you reach changes you. It's not just the view that's different, it's the person standing there. The man or woman who began at the base is gone, replaced by someone forged through the grind. The setbacks, the small victories that stacked like bricks. You don't just climb higher, you become sharper, stronger, and more decisive with every ascent. That's why people who live without a mission often feel restless even when life looks good on paper. They haven't been through the kind of refining fire that burns away weakness and leaves only strength. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As emperor of Rome, he didn't have the luxury of living without purpose. Every day was a crucible of decisions affecting millions. Yet in his private writings, he reminded himself not to be consumed by the noise of power, but to live as if each day were a task assigned by the gods themselves. His mission wasn't merely to rule, it was to rule with wisdom and virtue. That higher standard kept him from drifting into complacency or arrogance. When you hold yourself to that kind of standard, you stop measuring progress solely in outward markers like income, status, or recognition. Those things matter, but they are byproducts, not the core. The real measure is whether you acted with the discipline, integrity, and consistency that your mission demands. That's what builds the internal sense of power you carry with you into every room, every negotiation, every challenge. This doesn't mean you ignore results. On the contrary, you track them with precision. A mission without measurable outcomes is just wishful thinking. But instead of obsessing over outcomes you can't fully control, you set your metrics on what you can. Your daily actions, your learning curve, your resilience under stress. Those are the levers you can pull with 100% certainty. Over time, those levers move mountains. Leonardo da Vinci treated his notebooks as living blueprints of his evolving mission. Page after page, he tracked observations, sketches, inventions, and ideas in a way that allowed him to see not just where he was going, but how far he had come. That's a habit worth copying. Document your mission. Write down the insights, the adjustments, the small wins. In moments of doubt, that record becomes proof that your work is compounding, even when the results aren't yet visible. And there will be times when the results are invisible, when you're putting in the work and seeing nothing change. That's when most people quit. They convince themselves the mission is failing, when in reality, the foundation is still forming underground. Like a seed in the soil, growth is happening where you can't see it. Those who keep tending the ground during that invisible phase are the ones who one day harvest more than they thought possible. The mission mindset makes you immune to the false timelines that break lesser players. You stop caring about the arbitrary deadlines set by impatience. You operate on the principle that the mission takes as long as it takes, and you will be here until it's done. That calm persistence is what turns temporary effort into permanent achievement. Winston Churchill embodied that principle during Britain's darkest hours. When the skies over London were lit with fire and the future looked like it could be swallowed by tyranny, he understood something that most leaders miss. His mission wasn't simply to win battles. It was to embody defiance itself. His speeches weren't just words. They were psychological artillery aimed at keeping the national spirit unbroken. And while victory did not come quickly, the relentless stand he took bought the time needed for the tide to turn. Your mission, whatever form it takes, will demand the same kind of resolve. Not every day will feel like a step forward. There will be long stretches where your role is to hold the line, to keep the vision alive while you grind in the shadows. But it's in those stretches that you prove to yourself first, and then to the world that your purpose isn't for sale to frustration or fatigue. One practical way to build this endurance is through non-negotiable daily actions. Decide on the smallest number of behaviors that, if done without fail, will keep your mission advancing. It might be making a set number of outreach calls, reading a certain number of pages, training your body, or refining your craft. Keep that list brutally simple, 3 to 5 core actions, and execute them no matter what. Rain, shine, or exhaustion, these are the unbroken links in your chain of progress. Abraham Lincoln mastered this type of disciplined persistence. His mission, preserving the Union and ending slavery, was repeatedly battered by political betrayal, battlefield losses, and personal tragedy. Yet, he anchored himself in steady, deliberate steps. He read deeply, consulted widely, and moved forward with careful timing, knowing that even small strategic decisions could shift the course of history. His legacy wasn't built on bursts of brilliance alone, but on the daily application of will to purpose. There's another layer to acting as if you're on a mission. It changes how you use your mental space. You stop letting your mind run on the autopilot of random thoughts and instead train it like a soldier. Visualization becomes a tool, not a daydream. Each morning, you see the next key move in vivid detail. You rehearse it mentally before you ever touch it in the real world. And when you step into that action, it feels inevitable, almost rehearsed, because in a sense, it has been. This is where neuroscience lines up perfectly with ancient wisdom. Studies on mental rehearsal show that the brain fires in many of the same patterns, whether you are physically doing a task or vividly imagining it. That means you can double your practice time without adding hours, half in reality, half in controlled imagination. When tied to a mission, this amplifies your execution speed and sharpens your confidence. And there's a warning here: if you fail to direct your mental rehearsals, you'll still be rehearsing, but it will be for failure. Every time you dwell on what could go wrong, you're wiring that scenario into your nervous system. That's why mission-driven people are ruthless about mental discipline. They feed their minds images of success, precision, and follow-through, not because they're blind to risk, but because they refuse to rehearse defeat. Leonidas of Sparta understood that truth in the most extreme way. At the narrow pass of Thermopylae, he and his small band of warriors faced a force so vast that surrender would have seemed like the only rational choice. Yet their mission was not survival, it was to hold the pass long enough to rally Greece. Every movement, every clash of shields, every last stand was already rehearsed in their minds long before they took their positions. They didn't improvise their courage. They had forged it daily in discipline and preparation. You may not be standing in a mountain pass with an army bearing down on you, but in the modern arena, the stakes are still high. Your enemy might be the inertia of comfort, the distraction of 1,000 shallow pursuits, or the constant pull of instant gratification. Acting as if you're on a mission means you treat these forces with the same seriousness Leonidas treated the Persian army. They are not inconveniences. They are existential threats to your purpose. One of the most effective ways to defend against them is by creating a personal code of operation. This is more than a set of goals, it's a battle doctrine. Write down the rules you live and work by. For example, I finish what I start. I speak with precision. I move toward the target every single day. I do not negotiate with procrastination. When these are written and visible, they serve as constant alignment points, a reminder of who you are and what you're willing to do for your mission. Julius Caesar carried his own version of this code. When he crossed the Rubicon River, he knew it was a point of no return, an act that declared war on the Roman Senate and committed him to a path where victory was the only acceptable outcome. His decision was not a gamble in the dark. It was the product of years of preparation, alliance building, and a clear understanding of his objectives. Once he moved with total commitment. That's the energy you bring when you act as if your mission is absolute. You remove the escape routes. You stop leaving later as an option. And when you feel that subtle resistance, the whisper to take the easy path, you answer it with action so immediate it has no time to grow roots in your mind. And here's something powerful to remember. People respond differently to you when they sense you're on a mission. You'll notice doors open that were previously shut, allies appear without you asking, and opportunities begin to align. It's not magic, it's that clarity and conviction are magnetic. They cut through the static and signal to others that you are someone moving with purpose, someone worth backing, someone who will not waste the chances they are given. That magnetic pull is why Andrew Carnegie could rally investors, managers, and entire teams to follow his industrial vision. He didn't approach people with half-formed ideas or timid requests. He spoke and acted as a man who had already seen the steel empire built in his mind. His conviction was so strong that it made others believe in the picture before the first beam was forged. That is the essence of acting on a mission. Your certainty becomes contagious, and it inspires action in others before physical proof exists. Modern neuroscience backs this up. When you embody a clear, purposeful direction, your behavior triggers what psychologists call mirror neurons in the people you interact with. Without even realizing it, they begin to reflect your energy and intention. If you move with hesitation, they feel it. If you move with unshakable focus, they feel that too, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. This is why leadership begins not with commands but with your own posture, voice, and movement toward the target. To make this practical, think about your mornings. When you wake up, don't just drift into the day. Begin as if the first hour is your launch sequence. Even small actions, how you make your bed, the pace at which you move, the way you dress, signal to your subconscious that you are in mission mode. You are programming your brain to associate each day with decisive action, not hesitation. One of the simplest ways to solidify this is with a mission log. Keep a small notebook or digital journal where, every morning, you write down the single most mission-critical action for that day. Then commit publicly if you can to completing it. When you track these actions over weeks and months, you will begin to see patterns emerge, where you thrive, where you slip, and how your discipline compounds. There's a reason military units run daily briefings. Clarity isn't a one-time event, it's a constant refresh. Every morning, you're resetting your compass, reminding yourself of the terrain, and locking onto the target again. Without that, the noise of the world will hijack your direction. And if you're finding this message resonating right now, if it's sparking something in you, pause and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because this is only the surface, we're going deeper into how to wire your mind for unstoppable momentum. Leonardo da Vinci understood this centuries ago. He didn't just sit and wait for inspiration to strike. He approached his work like a general marshaling forces for a campaign. His notebooks are filled with diagrams, experiments, and relentless questions because he knew that genius, without disciplined execution, was wasted potential. Every invention, every sketch, was part of a larger mission to merge art and science into a vision the world had never seen before. That kind of commitment doesn't happen by accident. It's cultivated daily, through habits that pull you forward even when motivation feels far away. In our time, too many people wait for perfect conditions before they start. They want the stars to align, the fear to vanish, the path to be cleared of every obstacle. But here's the truth: conditions are never perfect, and waiting only strengthens hesitation. Acting as if you're on a mission forces you to engage with reality now, not in some imagined future. You learn to adapt mid-movement, adjusting your tactics while your momentum keeps you advancing. This is where the slight edge principle comes into play. Small, deliberate actions, repeated daily, create a compounding effect that's invisible at first but undeniable over time. The moment you tie those small actions to a larger mission, they stop feeling like chores and start feeling like steps toward destiny. Each email sent, each rep in the gym, each page read becomes a brick in the fortress you're building. Winston Churchill embodied this mindset in Britain's darkest hours. His speeches didn't just inform, they transmitted conviction. When resources were scarce and fear was rampant, he acted as if victory was inevitable. This didn't mean ignoring danger. It meant framing every challenge as part of the mission. He understood that in moments of uncertainty, the leader's belief sets the tone for the entire group. And so, even under the threat of annihilation, he carried himself with the bearing of a man who had already seen the end of the war and knew it was a British victory. You can do the same in your own battles, whether they are in business, health, or personal growth. Decide right now to carry yourself in a way that reflects the result you're aiming for, not the struggle you're in. When you wake up tomorrow, move through your morning as if the victory has already been won, because the energy you bring will shape the reality you step into. This is not a call to delusion. It's a call to alignment. When your posture, your tone, your decisions all match the identity of the person who has already achieved what you're after, your subconscious begins to rewire itself. The brain is constantly looking for cues about who you are, and it will adjust your behavior to stay consistent with that identity. This is why athletes visualize themselves crossing the finish line before the race begins. It programs the nervous system to act in accordance with that reality. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, practiced this kind of internal alignment every morning. In his private meditations, he reminded himself of the day's inevitable challenges, insults, betrayals, fatigue, and affirmed his role as a man committed to virtue and duty regardless. By anticipating hardship but deciding in advance who he would be in response, he lived as if his mission had already been set in stone. He was not reacting to life. He was carrying out a predetermined course, one he had chosen with intention. In your life, this means creating not just goals, but a mission statement so clear that it governs your choices without hesitation. If your mission is to build a business that gives your family financial freedom, then each call you make, each skill you develop, each hour of focus becomes an act of service to that mission. Distractions lose their pull because they are irrelevant to the battlefield you've chosen. You're no longer asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" But instead, "Does this advance my mission?" John D. Rockefeller operated with this kind of ruthless clarity. While competitors reacted to market fluctuations in panic, he stayed steady because his purpose wasn't tied to the daily noise, it was tied to long-term control and stability. Every move he made was part of an integrated plan, one that required him to think in decades, not days. And because he acted as if those decades of dominance were inevitable, he made decisions most people would have been too fearful to take. When you carry yourself with mission-driven certainty, you begin to notice that opportunities seem to appear more often. It's not magic, it's that your attention filters out the irrelevant and locks onto anything that can advance your cause. In neuroscience, this is the reticular activating system at work, tuning your awareness to match the identity you've chosen. The mission becomes the lens, and through it, the world looks different. But a mission is only as strong as the discipline that guards it. Without structure, the mind slips back into comfort, and comfort is the silent killer of ambition. You must construct daily and weekly rituals that keep you anchored to the identity you are forging. This is why elite performers guard their mornings like sacred ground. The first hour after you wake is a window in which your mind is most impressionable. If you fill it with scattered inputs and aimless motion, you start the day reactive, already behind. But if you begin with a clear sequence, hydration, movement, focused planning, and a deliberate reminder of your mission, You set a tone that ripples into every action that follows. Consider Benjamin Franklin. Each morning he would ask himself a simple, piercing question. What good shall I do today? This was not a vague wish for productivity. It was a strategic prompt that aligned his mind with purpose before the demands of the world intruded. At night, he would ask, what good have I done today? That daily loop of intention and review acted as both compass and accountability. He was not drifting, he was steering. For you, a mission-driven morning might mean waking before the noise of the world, spending 10 minutes visualizing the successful completion of the day's most vital task, writing down 3 key actions that will advance your cause, and eliminating any activity that does not serve those actions. This is not about perfection, it's about consistency. The power comes not from a single flawless day, but from stacking hundreds of mission-aligned days on top of each other until the weight of that consistency breaks through resistance. Alexander the Great lived this stacking principle in a way that reshaped the world. His campaigns were not a series of disconnected battles. They were a chain of deliberate moves, each one securing the position for the next. He thought in terms of the whole conquest, not just the skirmish in front of him. When you operate with that same strategic patience, acting as if the victory is already unfolding, you make choices that compound, and eventually, the world begins to bend under the pressure of your persistence. This compounding effect is the quiet engine behind every great transformation. People see the breakthrough moment, the empire built, the book published, the body transformed, and they think it was sudden. But in truth, it was the invisible accrual of effort that no one applauded, no one noticed, and no one could measure until the result became undeniable. The man who goes to the gym each day, even when no progress is visible, is not just lifting weights. He is engraving a new identity into his nervous system. The entrepreneur who spends an hour daily studying market patterns is not just gathering data. He is wiring himself to see opportunities that others overlook. Thomas Edison embodied this principle with relentless faith. His quest to create a commercially viable light bulb was not a grand leap, but a march through thousands of iterations. Each failed attempt was not seen as defeat, but as another stone laid in the road toward his inevitable success. He acted every day as if the solution was already his, and because of that, he persisted where others quit. This is the psychology of mission. Your behavior flows from belief, not from the current evidence in front of you. Your challenge is to create an environment that makes this persistence inevitable. Remove the friction between you and your mission's daily actions. If your goal is to write, your desk should be clear, your tools ready, and your writing time non-negotiable. If your mission involves financial growth, your budget, investments, and income activities should be tracked and reviewed weekly, as naturally as breathing. The more you reduce decision fatigue and automate your mission-supporting behaviors, the more mental energy you free for high-impact moves. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As a Roman emperor, he was surrounded by distractions, temptations, and politics that could have consumed his attention. Yet, through his meditations, he trained his mind to filter out what did not serve the higher purpose. He wrote to himself, not for an audience, but to strengthen the fortress of his own discipline. This inner work was not glamorous, but it was the shield that allowed him to remain aligned with his duty in the face of chaos. When you live as if you are on a mission, you stop negotiating with your weaker impulses. The alarm clock rings, and instead of bargaining for 5 more minutes, you rise because the mission does not wait. The opportunity to act is finite, and each day wasted is a door closed forever. This urgency is not about frantic activity. It is about decisive, targeted movement toward your objectives, as if your future depends on it, because it does. Think of Alexander the Great at the shores of the Persian Gulf. His conquests were not the product of a single brilliant battle, but of a series of disciplined marches, tactical studies, and the ability to keep his army focused on a vision larger than themselves. He inspired them not by promising comfort, but by embodying the conviction that their mission was worth more than any hardship they would endure. That belief became infectious. Soldiers followed him through deserts and mountains because they saw in him a man who had already decided the outcome in his mind. This same dynamic operates in your own life. People, opportunities, and resources align with those who project certainty, not hesitation. If you act half-heartedly, you will receive half-hearted results. But if your every movement signals that you are committed, that you have already decided to win, the world starts to bend toward your determination. One practical way to anchor this mindset is to begin each morning with what I call the mission lock-in. Before you check your phone, before you respond to anyone else's agenda, take 10 minutes to review your mission statement aloud, visualize the end result, and write down the 3 most mission-critical actions for the day. This is not a to-do list, it is a battle plan. By deciding these actions before the noise of the day floods in, you ensure that your mind is primed to act with clarity, not reactivity. When you do this consistently, something shifts deep in your psychology. You no longer drift through the day, hoping to stumble upon progress you commanded. Your subconscious begins to filter information, opportunities, and even conversations through the lens of your mission. Distractions lose their appeal because they simply don't fit the identity you are living from. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote extensively on the discipline of aligning one's thoughts and actions with a higher purpose. He ruled an empire, but his true governance was over himself. Each morning, he would remind himself of the kind of man he intended to be, regardless of how others acted or what challenges arose. This was not arrogance, it was preparation. A mission-led life is prepared for resistance because it expects it. You must understand, resistance is not a sign you are failing, it is confirmation you are moving. The war of art calls resistance the shadow that appears when you step toward your real work. It will show up as fatigue, self-doubt, endless, urgent tasks that are really just camouflage for avoidance. But when you are on a mission, you recognize these for what they are: tests of your commitment. In practical terms, you can fortify yourself against this resistance through what I call structured non-negotiables. These are actions so aligned with your mission that they happen every day without question. It could be your training regimen, your financial tracking, your creative output. Even when the day goes sideways, these still happen. Think of them as the guardrails that keep you on the road when storms hit. Over weeks and months, these small, repeated acts compound into visible, undeniable results. Andrew Carnegie understood this principle long before self-help books gave it a name. As a young man in Pittsburgh, he worked 12-hour shifts in a telegraph office. His real mission, though, was not to stay behind that desk, it was to build something vast. Every evening after work, he studied business, industry trends, and invested in relationships with mentors who could open doors. These daily, deliberate steps, many of them seemingly insignificant, were the rails that carried him from a clerk's chair to becoming one of the wealthiest and most influential industrialists in history. He acted as if he was already the man capable of commanding steel empires, long before the world saw him as such. The brain has a peculiar loyalty to consistency. Neuroscience shows us that your subconscious is always scanning for proof to confirm the identity you live from. If you behave like a man on a mission, your subconscious adjusts its filters to make that reality dominant. You'll notice opportunities you once overlooked. You'll feel an almost magnetic pull toward people and places aligned with your trajectory. This is not mystical. It is the reticular activating system at work, amplifying what matches your self-image and muting the rest. This is why drifting is so dangerous. Without a mission, your mental filters don't know what to prioritize. You become vulnerable to noise, to the petty, to whatever screams loudest in the moment. Acting as if you are on a mission hardwires your attention, making it far less likely you'll waste energy chasing what doesn't matter. There's also a subtle moral force that builds when you live this way. You begin to hold yourself to a higher code because the mission demands it. You watch your words more carefully, you keep your promises more fiercely, you manage your resources more wisely. Over time, this transforms not just your results, but your reputation. And reputation is a currency more valuable than gold. Consider Theodore Roosevelt. Before he became president, before the Rough Riders, before his name was etched into the stone of Mount Rushmore, he was a sickly, asthmatic boy whom doctors did not expect to survive childhood. Yet he adopted a mission early: to make his body and mind formidable, no matter the cost. He built a home gym, lifted weights, practiced boxing, hiked, and immersed himself in studies with relentless focus. Every action reinforced the idea that he was a man of vigor, courage, and intellect. By the time the world met him as a political leader, that identity was already cast in iron. He did not wait for others to validate him. He lived as if the role was his, and the world simply adjusted to the evidence. That is the essence of this discipline. You act as if, not as a delusion, but as a declaration. You conduct yourself according to the demands of the mission, and in time, the external results catch up to the internal reality you've been forging. The mission becomes a gravitational force, pulling your habits, your circle, your opportunities into alignment. But there's a deeper layer, one that most ignore. Acting as if you're on a mission is not about constantly pretending you've already arrived. It's about embodying the standards, the precision, the urgency, and the decision-making clarity that your future self would naturally possess. If the man you want to be would wake before sunrise to read, plan, and train, then you do it now, before the reward. If the woman you want to be would negotiate with confidence and set firm boundaries, then you start asserting them now, even when it's uncomfortable. Your environment will try to pull you back into the inertia of the ordinary. Friends, family, even co-workers may look at you sideways when you start operating differently. They may accuse you of being too intense or too serious. That is the resistance. Every person on a mission faces the silent test to see if you will betray the mission for the comfort of social acceptance. Those who pass this test become leaders. Those who fail fade into the background noise of history. History offers us endless proof of this test. Take Alexander the Great, standing at the edge of the known world after a decade of conquest. His men were exhausted, longing for home, but Alexander's mission was not yet complete. He had been raised to believe he was destined to unite East and West under a single vision. That belief governed his decisions more than fatigue, more than fear, more than the opinions of those around him. While his army eventually refused to march further, his personal resolve never wavered, because his identity had already merged with the mission itself. And that's the shift you must make. The mission is not a project you work on. It's a part of who you are. You wake up with it in your bones. You go to sleep with it in your mind. You make your purchases, your conversations, your exercise, your reading all orbit around its gravity. The mind begins to filter out distractions naturally, because anything that doesn't serve the mission feels like sand in the gears. Neuroscience backs this up. When you lock onto a meaningful, specific objective and feed it constant focus, your reticular activating system, the brain's filter, starts scanning the environment for patterns, opportunities, and resources that match your intent. This is why once you buy a certain car, you suddenly see it everywhere. But when the mission is a life-level pursuit, the same mechanism works in your favor. The people you meet, the books you stumble on, the ideas that flash into your head, they all start converging to serve the goal. Because your mind has been instructed to see the world through that lens. This is also why half-hearted missions die. The brain won't prioritize them because you don't. If you treat your goal like an afterthought, it will remain one in your reality. The moment you start living like your success is not optional, like it's oxygen, that's when the invisible machinery of focus and discipline kicks in. Consider Theodore Roosevelt in his youth. Sickly, weak, and often bedridden, he could have easily accepted a small, safe life. But instead, he forged himself into the embodiment of vigor. He took on a rigorous physical regimen, boxing, hiking, even hunting in harsh conditions, not to impress anyone, but because he decided his mission was to be a man capable of leading with strength and endurance. That decision didn't just alter his body, it altered his entire life trajectory, eventually carrying him to the presidency and shaping his fearless approach to challenges. His transformation was not an accident. It was the result of living as if his mission demanded that every choice add to his capability. You must ask yourself, if my mission depended on me being at my sharpest in mind, my strongest in body, my clearest in vision, what changes would I make starting today? This reframing eliminates the luxury of waiting. You begin to notice the foods that slow you down, the conversations that drain your energy, the habits that fog your clarity. And when you truly see them, you cannot unsee them. Action becomes the only logical next step. There's also a deeper layer to living. As if you're on a mission, it forces you to measure yourself differently. You stop asking, "Did I feel like doing it?" and start asking, "Did it serve the mission?" That simple change removes the emotional turbulence from discipline. Soldiers don't debate whether they feel like following orders. The mission defines their behavior. And when your mission is truly yours, the same principle applies. You execute because the mission exists, not because your mood aligns with it. This is where the psychology of winning merges with the slight edge philosophy. Small, consistent actions taken not when convenient, but when required, accumulate into massive shifts over time. When you live mission first, the days stop blurring together. Each one gains a sharpness, a purpose, because each one is a brick in the fortress you're building. And here's the subtle but profound effect: you start to radiate certainty. People may not understand the details of your mission, but they will feel the force of your direction. It's the same quality that made Alexander the Great's soldiers follow him across continents. Many of them didn't fully grasp his grand vision, but they sensed he was utterly committed, and that unwavering conviction drew them in. People naturally align with those who move decisively towards something bigger than themselves. This is why acting as if you're on a mission doesn't just change your results, it changes your influence. Your focus becomes magnetic. Opportunities you used to chase start appearing on your path. Not because of luck, but because you are broadcasting, through action, who you are and what you stand for. The right people and the right resources are drawn to that kind of signal. But understand, living this way will also repel. Weak habits, weak environments, and weak relationships will naturally fall away. They cannot survive in the atmosphere of mission-driven living. At first, this pruning feels uncomfortable, lonely, even. Yet history shows us this is always part of the climb. Benjamin Franklin, in his pursuit of mastery and contribution, separated himself from many influences that did not serve his goals. It was not arrogance, it was necessity. He understood that every hour wasted in idle company was an hour stolen from the work that would shape his legacy. When you internalize this, you stop treating your time as a casual thing. Every hour has weight. Every choice either adds to the mission or steals from it. And when you guard your time like that, the compounding effect over months and years is staggering. You begin to live with a velocity and intentionality that most people never experience. And that, more than talent or resources, is what multiplies results. Champions, your mind has been forged a little stronger today, but the real test isn't what you learned, it's what you do with it. Take action, dominate your day, and remember, we're not just building better thoughts, we're forging unstoppable lives. The forge doesn't stop, and neither do you. If this episode hit you where it counts, subscribe to Mental Forge Academy and join the Brotherhood of Champions who refuse to settle for ordinary. Go transform, strike while the mind is hot.